Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Mike McDowd is off on assignment today. At each commercial break, we are going to ask a trivia question, and I'm not even going to tell you how hard or easy they are, except for one hard one and a couple of easy ones. Okay. When we get back, I do want to, even though the UCLA did beat South Carolina, I do want to ask what happened with the Econ coach versus South Carolina with the confrontation, and will that affect his legacy? Because he kind of confronted the coach of South Carolina. I don't know. I don't even know what that was all about, except for hearing something regarding he was upset because she kept yelling at the refs. Of course, most coaches do that, so whatever. We also, when we get back, talk about Luka Doncic and the hamstring injury and the fact that he's going to miss the 65-game minimum for awards, and, should that be changed? Talk a little bit about Tiger Woods, talk about flag football in the Olympics. That'll be kind of fun. And then talk a little bit about the ABS, the automatic ball strike system. Is it finally something that's come around? And I don't think it's really added too much extra time to the game. Has it, Russell?
Be nicknamed the Angel Hernandez ABS.
That guy was so bad.
He is the reason why it's there. They should name it after him. They should name it after him so that he can remember for all time that because of his inability to call a consistent strike zone, that we had to put a computer in charge.
Yeah, he really devastated our Giants teams, about 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah, he's a complete and utter doughhead, and I am, progress happens, and the ABS is here to stay.
And I'm not accusing Angel Hernandez of being on the take, but boy, I tell you, when you look at some of those balls and strikes, you go, really? Okay. Anyway, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Well, welcome back, to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman. Again, Mike McDowd is off today. Okay, first I want to bring up the women's...
I'm under witness protection.
The NCAA women's semifinal, which was UConn versus South Carolina, and UConn, they had a long streak going, and then they just lost lost to South Carolina. But the question I have is, the coach for UConn confronted the South Carolina coach like after the game. They were shaking hands, and he had some issue, and she had an issue back with him. And I think it had something to do with him or her yelling at the refs the whole time. And I don't know if he thought maybe they were favoring her because I don't know. But my question is, how is that going to affect his legacy? I mean, he could get fired for something silly like that, couldn't he?
Yeah, but he didn't get fired. It'll blow over. I do think that it's kind of thing. I mean, he didn't hit her, and it was one of those things that became a physical confrontation. So just yelling back and forth, and probably a fine will come out of this, and then everyone else just move on. I mean, it didn't have any effect on the game itself. It didn't have any effect on the outcome. It's probably mean that when South Carolina plays up against UConn again, there'll be some interesting, bad blood between them. But overall, I think it's kind of a tempest in a teacup. I don't think it's that horrible. In fact, I don't even think it made really big news. I mean, like it or not, it's the men's Final Four and the NCAA that everybody pays attention to. The women's stuff is like the NIT stuff. It kind of goes on in the background, And it's interesting because when my dad was a kid, he was telling me that the NIT was the big tournament, and the NCAA was kind of seen as like the also ran,
And in fact, I think my dad told me that it was like New York City College that won both. They were like the only one that ever won both.
Yes. That's when New York ran the world, though. So I guess it's not crazy to think that, a New York team would have won the NIT and the NCAA, because they had, New York had like 20 schools that were involved in all that stuff. But
it's the same team, though, I think.
Yeah.
And so now even have that where they have the
No,
same?
you can't be in both the NIT now and the NCAA. And I mean, the NCAA is, I mean, teams basically, college teams live their entire season for the NCAA tournament. You know, they're playing everything towards it. And you get in the NIT, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, well, it was nice. You know, it's you're playing for, what you're really playing for is the number 67 spot in the nation, you know, because now they've even expanded the 64 to 65. And don't they even have like a 66 team or something like that in it? I mean, they have like these little like like the the NCAA tournament before the NCAA tournament to get the last couple seeds in there.
I don't remember, probably. And in fact, just for the audience sake, we are recording the show on the Monday. And I think tonight is the final game.
Half an hour before the NCAA tournament game.
But what's your prediction? You're a Michigan fan, right?
Yes, and you scoffed at me. And
I didn't know that. I think Mike did. I didn't scoff at you. I just said UConn's going to win it.
You first asked me if I meant Michigan State.
Yeah, no.
So and I said no, Michigan. And you scoffed at me, and you not dared to doubt.
You lie, my friend. I am not a scoffer.
Dared to doubt the greatness of my prognostication skills. Even though I picked the wrong Super Bowl winner. Well, no, I picked Seattle to win, but I picked, you know, in baseball, and I picked the Dodgers to win last year. But, you know, other year, like 2 years ago, I thought the 49ers were going to go to the Super Bowl when McCaffrey got hurt, you know, and they were so my prognostication skills aren't 100%, but I really have felt, I said last week that, you know, Michigan has been chewing teams up and spitting them out like they're watermelon seeds. I mean, really, they took Illinois and they took Arizona and made Arizona look pedestrian. And Arizona's not a pedestrian team, but they beat them by like 19 points.
Yeah, and they have a couple of big trees there. But it's interesting that Elliot Cadeau, he played for North Carolina, UNC, I believe, last year. And then he traded himself, let's say, over to Michigan. And he's one of those hot, cold streak guys. It kind of reminds me of someone like Jared Jack. Remember him?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so if he doesn't have it, he made
the world's worst NBA decision, I think, in the history of the NBA. And that is, Jared Jack was a starting guard for the Warriors at the time that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were, you know, working their way up. Yeah. And he put his foot down and demanded that he be the starter over Klay Thompson or Steph Curry, and that he would not in any way come off the bench. And the Warriors said, say hello to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And to New Orleans he went, and his career completely got destroyed.
These guys, you know, they have to leave their ego at the door.
Absolutely. If he had been willing to be,
they didn't know how good Steph Curry was going to be, but you never know. And
if he had been willing to come off the bench, and he would have been great as a backup point guard and a backup shooting guard, because he had great shooting skills. I mean, he was good at shooting threes, kind of like Klay. He wasn't the defender that Klay is, but he also could handle the ball and be a good point guard. And he would be great with Steph. When Klay had to sit down, he would have been great with Klay if Steph had to sit down. But he wouldn't do that. He said, I have to be the starter. I have to take one of their jobs. And instead, no, they took your job, and they're both Hall of Famers. And Jared Jack is a complete footnote in the NBA as to
no championship rings.
No championships. He would have gotten probably a couple rings if he had put it. And guess who parked his ego at the door and did get 4 rings as a part of it? Or three rings.
Sean.
No, Andre Iguodala.
Iguodala, yeah.
He was the guy that was willing to not be a starter, and he
Yeah.
was willing to come off the bench. And it's arguable that he might be one of the greatest six men of all time.
Well, he was getting a little bit toward the end of his career when he came to the
Yes.
Warriors, but still, did great.
He got an MVP in the finals by playing defense on LeBron.
Exactly.
And that's something, again, those could have been accolades that would have been up for Jarrett Jack, but he didn't want it. He wanted to be a big fish in a small pond, or he wanted to make his pond smaller and him being the star fish of it. And now he's part of your little trivia question as to, do you ever remember what happened to Jarrett Jack?
That's what I love about Andre is you can tell he's very intelligent. When you listen to him talk, and you can tell he'll probably be a coach.
I love Iggy Iguodala. I think he would be fabulous, as a coach, because he really understood the floor. He knew how to play he played everything but center. I mean, he was able to play every position but center. He could handle the ball. He could shoot the ball. He played defense. For his size, he was a great rebounder. And he just was and I'll tell you, until he retired, I think he was the best dunker that the Warriors had.
You could definitely argue that one for sure. Okay, Here, let's go to our first trivia question here. This one is, to me, it's kind of hard. In what country would you find the city of Timbuktu? So there actually is a real city called Timbuktu. We all kind of joke around.
It's in the continent of Africa, but now I have to figure out where.
Okay. So Timbuktu, and it's sounds like something out of Lion King, but it's not. All right. In what country will you find the city of Timbuktu? All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. All right. Trivia question number 1. In what country would you find the city of Timbuktu?
I'm going to say Nigeria.
No, Mali, M-A-L-I.
Yeah, sorry. We're not thinking Morocco, so neither one was right.
It starts with
in Africa, but it used to be a major trade city, for thousands of years, and then a huge drought happened, and everybody took off, and it's now, an abandoned historical site.
Yeah, good point. Okay, moving on. Let's stay with basketball. Luka Doncic, hamstring injury, may miss the 65-game minimum for awards. Should that be changed? I mean, he missed 2 games due to the birth of his daughter, and so,
first of all, I think there's a huge lesson about Doncic for all teams, and my friend who watches a lot of NBA with me, we were talking about it last night. You're in that difficult spot where, on the one hand, you want players to be hot and have their game in tune for the playoffs. But on the other hand, having them get hurt in a meaningless game that doesn't do anything for your standings is a nightmare. And whether or not Luka gets any awards, the fact that he's not going to be able to play for the next 35 days basically takes him out of the Lakers postseason. The Lakers are going to have to make it into deep, second or maybe early third round to get him back.
Yeah. And he's going to be in.
Yeah, I mean, now LeBron has to do it basically all himself because Austin Reeves is also hurt. I don't know if you know that. So, first of all, I don't smirk or have any problems because, look, if the Lakers are having problems winning anything, boo-hoo. Yeah, Los Angeles has had enough. They can go and chew on their Dodgers championship for a while, and the Rams are doing well. And yeah, and even the Clippers are in the playoffs. So, you know what? If the Lakers have problems in an early elimination in the first round, which I think is going to happen, because they're going to have to face a team like maybe Phoenix or possibly
Antonio, maybe? Or is that
Houston might be in the cards for them. There's a couple of games that juggle out, but it's going to be whoever you get in the West in the first round is not going to be easy. I mean, it's going to be the Clippers.
LeBron is almost 42.
Yeah.
So
But he was not looking to be, it's ironic because, like, a lot of people would say, LeBron's a ball hog, LeBron's all about himself and all this other stuff. And, finally this year, he looked like he really was adjusting to being a support player and getting Reeves the ball and getting Doncic the ball and getting Vanderbilt the ball and getting Hachimura the ball and, really distributing stuff a lot more and not being so, me centered. I got to shoot. The ball has to go through me, all this stuff. Now, all those guys are hurt. And now he does have to take over and do all of this stuff. And I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
He's kind of been doing it too.
I think when you get into the playoffs, I think the 42 years that he is of age is going to start showing up. I mean, you don't get much time off between games. You have to do a lot of quick traveling between cities, and he's got a lot of mileage.
Yeah, that to me is the big thing. Is all that traveling. I don't know how these guys do it.
He's played more games than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he pulled ahead of him in scoring. Yeah. So it shows that, he really has played a crazy number of games in his career. Yeah. And,
he started when he was 18. So he's been playing for years.
You look at Moses Moody, for example, and how he tore his patella just going up for a dunk. Yeah. And that sort of thing can happen to you anytime. But when now you're, 42, you're really rolling the dice. Yeah. And seeing what's going to happen. But I, it's a weird thing. Like, do you sit everybody and rest guys now and worry about whether they're going to get hurt? And B, will they miss that 65 game, thing? Which, as you say, well, it's just an award. But hey, for a lot of these guys, they get a lot of money if they get those awards. So there's that incentive to play. And then the third thing is that, if you have tickets down the stretch for some of these games, what are you going to be watching?
Exactly. Didn't Popovich get fined because he sat his players last year?
But that was no. But that was earlier in the season. The big question is, does the league stand up and say you're trying to tank in these last 4 games? Last 5 games.
Oh, the thing is, if you're down in the standings, maybe so you can get more balls in the hopper.
Sure. And there's a lot of talk about trying to prevent that.
But LA's already in the playoffs, though.
How do you prove a team is tanking? How do you especially when it's a team like the Kings that just have injuries everywhere. Every single player is hurt on that team.
Tanking.
What?
They always seem to be tanking.
No, they're not. Weirdly enough, they've won some games down the stretch, and now they have 21 wins, and they're more looking like they're going to wind up getting the 5th, 6th, or 7th pick rather than the 1, 2, or 3.
Right? They haven't been good since Vlade Divac played for them.
No, they had the Beam team a couple of years ago. They won 60 games.
Darren Fox, he was playing.
Yeah, they won, and when it was an early part in the career of Sabonis, and they had Harrison Barnes on the team, and they won, and Keegan Murray was playing really well, but everybody is running into a buzzsaw. And they are looking like a MASH unit right now. In fact, I joked that, like, what did they do? Like, prescribe to the same health plan as the 49ers had for this last season? Whatever the health plan the 49ers had that got them injured up and down the roster just transferred right on over to the Sacramento Kings.
There you go.
All
right. Let's move on for a minute here. A little golf. So Tiger Woods goes, gets in a car crash, and this is his second or third one at least.
Third. He had another one I was trying to remember about when he drove off the road too. When he was taking pills or something.
There was this one, and what was the other one? Besides his wife putting a golf club.
He fell asleep while he was driving.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought he
slid off the road.
Was he?
He didn't hit anybody, but he slid off the road.
We slid off the road. Okay, for some reason I thought he was parked. Okay, so at this point, shouldn't he lose his license? I mean, he can afford to pay a driver to drive.
That's a big question. When you have the hundreds of millions that, or bring the party to you. He's got a mansion. Open up your own bar in your own house if you really.
It wasn't so much drinking; it was the prescription drugs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's true. And he obviously has a problem with them, and it's. But again, when you're that rich, yeah, I mean, why you can't stay home and bring the party to you, or why you can't,
Well, I had many years ago when I was doing tax returns for some municipal bond brokers. There was the one head guy, and this guy had a big drinking problem, and he ended up. I don't think he lost his license, but what ended up happening was his insurance went up so much.
Sure.
It
Yes.
was cheaper for him to hire a taxi. Back then they didn't have Ubers.
Sure.
It was cheaper for him to just hire a taxi to take him everywhere.
Tiger Woods is so rich. He could have people give him piggyback rides from one person. You just have like people stationed like 50 feet away from each other and like switch off and give him a piggyback ride from one person to the other. Have them switch.
15 hours to get to a mile, but that's okay.
But he wouldn't get a DUI though. It would look ridiculous.
It's not like someone who, let's say, well, again, I'm just going by like what the news reports, right? It's not like he is on meth and he just can't get off of meth.
Pills can be just as bad.
And it's like, okay, listen, I get it. You're in pain. You got to take this medication.
Oxy is just as bad as heroin. Oxy is just as bad as heroin.
Yeah, but I guess that's true. I mean, I guess
it makes you that hooked. It makes you that hooked to it.
But
and I can talk about personal experience.
Again, I don't know enough about it, but it's like, are you clear thinking from the standpoint of, okay, I know I can't drive, because at least, I'm sure most of us have at least had a drink or two too much where we go, you know what? I mean, I had that happen to me many years ago where I just said, you know what? I know I can't drive. And so I literally had to call my wife to come pick me up and then
he needs to hire someone to stand next to him and say, hey, Tiger, you're really 1-2 sheets to the wind. But you look at his mugshot. Doesn't his mugshot just? I mean, it makes you kind of sad because you think of like the energetic young kid that was so enthusiastic about the sport and had nothing but the future ahead of him. And you figured because of golf, he would have been able to play till he was like 60, 70, 80 years old.
You're right. I tell you what, hey, let's go to our next trivia question here.
Okay.
How many colors are there in a standard rainbow? And we'll see. First of all, you got to guess how many, and then let's see if you can name them. All right? That's our trivia question. Audience, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Our second trivia question. How many colors are there in a standard rainbow?
8?
No.
16.
No. Come on. You've seen a rainbow. There's not 16 colors.
Well, let's see.
Go on. Well, I'll say it's 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah, let's see if you can name them.
Let's see. Well, there's blue, obviously.
Blue.
Red.
Red.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Green.
Green.
Orange.
Orange. 2 more.
And white.
No. The other two are a little bit harder. Violet and indigo.
Indigo. Okay.
Indigo. Your favorite color.
Dark part. I do like it, actually.
All right. Next trivia question, or next point here. So flag football in the Olympics debuts in 2028 in LA, which is kind of fun because we're, a football country.
America's curling.
America's curling, yes. And so apparently RG3, Robert Griffin III, who used to play with the Washington Redskins, and he hasn't played since 2020, apparently he's going to be playing in this. That's pretty cool.
I would, as much as I appreciate him doing that, playing flag football requires you to like do a lot of running. I mean, more running than, tackling, obviously, and anything like
Yeah.
that. And you have to be able to, because I played flag football in college,
Yeah. Okay.
and it takes surprisingly large amount of dexterity to, you don't have pads on, so you move faster. And if he plants his leg wrong on the field, he had major, major reconstructive knee surgery.
Yeah.
And it's like he shouldn't be doing anything athletic on an Olympic level again. I think, leave that up to the young kids. The Olympics should really be up to the young kids. It's one thing I'm not all that thrilled about when they brought pros into the Olympics is that, it raised the age level of a lot of these athletes to be in their 30s, 20s and 30s. When one of the great things about the Olympics is seeing teenagers and 20-year-olds like having their first big, experience.
Well, you definitely have that in women's gymnastics. You have the young ones.
But you look at like the ski stuff, the skiing stuff has a lot of kids. I always think, oh, that makes me sound so old, but I am old. So, I can qualify for that. I'll be 60 in a couple of years. So, it's especially like looking at the NCAA games, and those are really like kids now. It used to be, they were adults to me when I was younger. And now I look at them and I go like, oh my God, my kids are almost the same age as the kids that are there and playing in the NCAA tournament.
What about me? My kid is
are older.
Like 10 years past college.
Yeah. Well, you are really old. That's how we define that. I'm old, but you're really old.
I'm really old. Hey, you know what? Well, I think I told you this before. When I was in high school, history was only 15 minutes long because it wasn't.
That's a good guess.
You're like, come on, I made that one up.
That's good. That you see, maybe you should do more of that than some of your old Dixie Cup ones that you get. Do you remember the Dixie Cups used to have the riddles?
Oh yeah,
on them? They were just the corniest.
Wait, Russell, you are old because Dixie. No.
Oh yeah. But it's not like you didn't know what I was talking about. No. So yeah. So there you go. There you go.
In fact, basketball, it was hard to play basketball because it was a square ball. They hadn't invented round yet.
Yes, and it was all rocks, and yeah, you had to climb a dinosaur to be able to get the basket out of the ball out of the peach basket. Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving on to a little baseball. So, what do you think about the ABS, automatic ball strike system?
The Angel Hernandez Memorial ABS system. That again, they needed to name it after him. I mean, but I always disliked the fact that strike zones were malleable and that umpires could have big strike zones and small strike zones. I just didn't like that. There's no other game that's like that.
For that umpire, that because they during the day.
There's no other rule in professional sports that works that way, where somebody's raw subjectivity controls so much of whether a game works.
Pass interference, and
But there are rules. There's still strict rules on it. It doesn't say pass interference is called when a referee, in his own personal opinion, feels that there's pass interference. I mean, granted, they call it wrong a lot of times, but there's still a rule in place that says.
They say, theoretically it's the shoulder or the below the shoulders to the knees. And I always think that they hardly ever call the high strike zone, unless you have a specific umpire.
They are now because they know that the ABS is going to light them up and make them look like fools in front of the rest of the world.
Like it because we've always said about this: get the call right. I mean, we were in the show before they even had instant replay, and there was debate about that. And I said, Yeah, it's just really important to get the call right. And in
And
fact,
ABS is quick. You know what I really like about ABS? They can give you the result in 2 seconds.
yeah, so it
They
doesn't.
don't sit there and wander around and like pass interference or when they were reviewing pass interference and it would take
Yeah.
25 minutes and even though everyone in the whole stadium saw the pass interference, the rest would still turn around and go, oh no, there was none. You know,
Oh, they even did again. Your favorite Angel Hernandez. They called I think he either called a home. He didn't call a home run when it was easily a home run. I
yeah.
mean, gosh, even with the instant replay, he still got it wrong.
Right. No, that's why it's really. I mean, baseball has such precision, and I think that it's batting will improve, and pitching will improve when guys know there's a certain level of consistency that they don't have to. That they just need to know that they have to get it within the shoulder to the
Yeah.
knee. And that there isn't going to be this shrinking and raising of the strike zone,
I
depending on, and a lot of times, people say, well, if this ump is having a good day, his strike zone is wide. And if
yeah,
he's having a bad day, it gets smaller. And it's like, why? There's no other thing that's like that,
no,
where
very-
an NFL rep will say, I'm going to let you have, because my toast was burned, on the way into work, I'm calling any contact, I'm going to call as pass interference, or I'm not going to call any contact as pass interference.
well, in fact, there wasn't an NBA ref, and I don't remember which one, who had an issue with Tim Duncan, and he was
Oh,
notorious.
yeah.
And Tim seemed like a guy who didn't really
Yeah,
argue
and he
too.
would call them like instant technicals on him.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, yeah. And well, that was a glaring thing. I think he got punished for it and then eventually, I think, fired
yeah.
because of that. So, I mean, yeah, you can't take stuff out and use your own personal thoughts because umpires represent the rules. They don't represent themselves.
You know what will also be good for this part of it is gambling,
Oh God.
because right, or from the, I mean, like not just so much gambling, but umpires on the take, if there are
Yeah,
any, right?
yeah,
I
it
mean,
really
hey,
reduces
time
that. I
I
mean,
can, if they
it's
call a
still
strike,
possible that you could throw somebody out for an infraction that's minor. You could still, safes and outs and stuff like that. But it's getting harder because of replay and because of that. But you know what? That keeps umpires honest. That makes umpires have to start, really looking at what they do, and they don't want to be shown up on national television as being a crappy ump. So I love it. I'm all for ABS. I'm totally used to the pitch clock now. I thought that would be a problem, but it's not. I think it's helped.
because also you get now the pitchers are so aware of it.
Yeah,
It's you're hard to
and they've
get.
gotten their timing back, and you don't see batters adjusting their gloves after every
Oh
single
yeah,
pitch. Was so obnoxious and such
in
a
games,
waste of
yeah,
time.
should have taken 2.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't miss any of those things. I don't miss pitchers throwing back to first base 14 times. I don't miss.
Well, that drive me crazy. In fact, I remember, I don't remember which game it was, but it was like 15 or 16 times in a row.
Yeah,
And it
that's
was
crazy.
doing, and I mean, that's just ridiculous. But, and what's
Yeah,
kind of,
no, those things don't make baseball any better or more fun to watch. So I don't. Those elements of baseball are gone, and I don't care if they ever come back. That's fine.
oh, I mean, the thing that's cool about the throwing over to first base now is you give a little bit of an advantage to the runner because he knows you can't throw
Which
again.
is good because stealing had pretty much died,
Yeah.
as a concept. I mean, I think that one of the most unassailable records might be Ricky Henderson's stolen base record. I mean, it's going to take somebody who's 5 years old right now to start stealing bases until he's 40 to be able to catch up to where Ricky Henderson is. It's such a rare thing to see even one or two stolen bases in a game, and Ricky Henderson would do it one or two stolen bases in an inning.
Yeah. I wonder why is it just because chicks dig the long ball and everyone's looking for the long ball?
No, I think that it's because stealing can be very dangerous. I mean, sliding in to second base and all of that can be a real combat situation, and
Yeah,
they
now
the
they got
rules
these
on that too.
big hand, nobody used to like to, except for Pete Rose going head first, but now they have these special gloves, the mittens that they put on, oven
Right.
mitts,
But
that
there'd
helps.
be collisions, and there would be other, you can pull your hamstring by trying to run so fast, between bases and so forth. So but yeah, and it really got out of vogue, and small ball really
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you are hitting home runs. You might as
yeah,
well stay on first base. If someone's going to hit a home run, who cares? If you were on first or second.
yeah. But I mean, I still like the steal.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
as a fan, it's different. But can you imagine going to a game and it only lasts an hour and 45 minutes, and you go, and I paid $200 for this such a short time? Come on, stretch it out to 3 hours
No,
for
I
me
don't
for
mind that. I
entertainment.
don't mind if it's an
No, I
exciting
know.
game
I'm just
and
kind
it's
of just
one that yeah, I mean
uh,
it's kind of like with movies. Like, I'm okay with a
kind of
movie
like with
being
what?
2 hours long. If it's a nice, entertaining movie. I don't need it to be two and a half
Yeah,
hours long and then look at my watch at the last half hour going, geez, you know what? They could have wrapped this movie up half an hour ago. I don't always think more is better. I think sometimes
yeah.
you can get something that is just the right amount of time and be entertained by it. I don't need 4 hours of entertainment to be entertained if 2 hours would have given me the whole story. You know,
Yeah.
that's one of my big gripes about modern
They
movies.
have to make movies at least 90 minutes long in order to get a whole story in.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't always. I've seen, made for TV movies that are an hour long that are fine, that say everything that needs to be said.
Well, yeah, if you get rid of all the fluff, right?
Exactly. That's the problem, is that nobody wants to get rid of the fluff. I don't know if you saw that Batman movie that came out a couple of years ago. Just the Batman.
Mm,
And it was nearly 3 hours long. It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
yeah, that's too long.
And about
Okay, what do
halfway
you?
through the movie, I said, I've had enough, and just turned it
Okay,
off. I've never been back.
let's go to our last trivia question here. What Italian city is considered one of the fashion capitals of the world? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay
You
with us.
know me
Sport
in fashion.
fashion. F
Yeah, you know
A.
me in fashion. I'm one of the great
Oh,
fashion.
you're a fashionista. All right, fashionista. Yeah, two. Oh, no, okay, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Hopefully next week, Mike will be be back from assignment. Okay, question number 3. What Italian city is considered one of the fashion capitals of the world?
I'm going to say Milan.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I got one of them.
You are a fashionista. Oh,
All
fashionista.
right.
Yep. All right. Any last words before we go into our thoughts for the day, which I know you're still okay. But why don't you give me a final score of the Michigan UConn game tonight?
Oh, good. I'm going to say Michigan is going to win 110 to 104.
You think it's going to be that high scoring? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to say 88 to 85 UConn.
Ooh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're going with UConn. No, nobody wants to take Michigan. I guess
Well,
everyone.
I know my daughter-in-law is rooting for Michigan because that's where she went to school. Okay,
And
you ready?
nobody wants the Chris Webber curse to be lived.
Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. So the trouble with having an open mind, of course, is that people will insist on coming along and trying to put things in it. Isn't that true? And Mark Twain said, age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind,
Don't mind, it doesn't matter.
Right?
That's as old as Mark Twain is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he said it. So he knows what he's talking about. All right, audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.